You know what doesn't get talked about enough? The unseen work, not the obvious stuff, not I made dinner or I picked up the kids or I cleaned the kitchen. I'm talking about the mental tabs you're running all day long. Who needs what? What's coming up? What's about to fall through the cracks? What needs remembering? What needs managing? What needs fixing before it becomes a problem? And if you're listening and you're thinking, yeah, that's me, I carry all of it, I want you to hear this. There's nothing wrong with you. This isn't about being controlling. It's not about being dramatic. It's about how mental load slowly turns into overfunctioning. It often starts out as love, as caring, as being helpful. I got it, babe. Don't worry. I'll handle it. It's just easier if I do it. Until one day you realize, I feel like I lost myself in this relationship. And what makes this pattern so hard to interrupt isn't just habit, it's guilt. The guilt of disappointing someone, the guilt of rocking the boat, the guilt of saying no when you've always said yes, the guilt that whispers, if I stop doing this, I'm a bad wife, I'm a bad mom, I'm a bad partner. So even when you do set a boundary, even when you finally speak up, you're left with that emotional hangover, replaying the conversation, scanning for signs of disapproval, wondering if you said it wrong, questioning yourself. Today, I'm joined by therapist Dr. Gloria King, and we're here talking about how this dynamic shows up, especially in neurodiverse relationships, where executive functioning differences can quietly push one partner into the role of planner, reminder, manager, and eventually maybe even the bad guy. We're going to talk about why this happens, why guilt keeps you stuck, and how to start setting boundaries in a way that brings you back to yourself without burning everything down. So take a breath. Let's take off our masks and let's begin. Welcome, Dr. Gloria King. I'm so excited to have you here for our my first in-person, your first in-person episode. We're both newbies at this, so welcome so much. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
So I am a dually licensed therapist. I do mental health and marriage and family therapy, and I've been in private practice since 2008. I've worked with couples since I did my internship many, many, many years ago. And I've tried to keep up with what's happening just within my client load and what's happening in life, and kind of picking up on little nuances and trends and things that I see often in my practice.
So I know one of the things that you've been talking about more recently, and actually until I started talking to you and watching some of your own videos, I had never heard of this term before, which is neurodiverse relationships. Mm-hmm. So can you speak to that a little bit in terms of what does that even mean? What does a relationship look like that is neurodiverse?
Sure. So all of us have a particular set of brain wiring, and that can encompass differences with perhaps even gender. And this also encompasses differences in how we perceive the world, how we respond to the world. And so when someone is neurodiverse, it just means that their brain wiring is a little bit different than what we would call someone that is neurotypical. So for this conversation, what I'm referring to is someone who's neurotypical is absent of traits or characteristics of things like ADHD, autism spectrum disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, dyslexia, sometimes a combination of a little bit of both.
So if a woman says that and again, going back to the intro that I just mentioned, like the person who has the mental overload, they're doing all the things, mentally keeping tabs, making sure everything is being taken care of. And for the woman who is saying, I feel like I have lost myself, and maybe this has been happening for years, like what actually is happening for that woman that she's feeling like she lost herself?
So many things can be happening simultaneously. First of all, she's probably taking on a lot of the mental load you were referring to earlier. So she is the taskmaster. She's the scheduler. She is the hostess with the mostest. If she's also working outside of the home, she's taking care of things at work and at home. I've actually had clients say, I feel like I start my second shift when I come home. And they're probably doing more than their fair share of the tasks and responsibilities in the household. And it's like she doesn't skip a beat because everyone's just used to her taking care of everything for everyone to the point where she doesn't really know who she is anymore, what she wants, what she likes, because she hasn't had the time or the opportunity to stop and pause about any of those things. You just go on to the next thing. And it's just expected.
It's so funny because as you're saying that, I'm thinking about an actual experience and story that I shared on the podcast before. I may have even written about it in my book. But honestly, for years, when the kids were younger, anytime we would go on vacation, I felt like I was kind of like playing this whack-a-mole game because here we are, we're away for a week. We might be at a beautiful resort, or at the time we we're probably coming down to Florida a lot. And I can remember just like waking up in the morning and starting with, I have a son and a daughter. Okay, what do you want to do, Ryan? What do you want to do, Angela? Paul, what do you need? What do you want? All freaking day long. What are their needs? What do you want? And just attending to it. And okay, I'm not going to lie. Maybe sometimes I would just like lay in the sun and open my book. But for the most part, I couldn't shut it off in my brain that I had to be constantly scanning what does everyone want and need. So that by the end of the vacation, I wasn't refreshed. And I love how you said that some of the women that you work with, they describe it as if they are starting a second shift. And I often felt, because I was a stay-at-home mom and my husband was starting his own business, that it was my role. It was my job. And so even if I was exhausted and the kids were young and they were waking up in the middle of the night, if they were sick or whatever, I wouldn't even think to say, nudge, nudge, hey, can you go check on Angela and see what's wrong?
Right. I'll take care of it.
I'll take care of it. So I guess the question is like, how do we get stuck in these roles? Like, how does this happen? Because for me, for all those years, it just felt like it was something I was supposed to do. It was what it was until it wasn't, or I knew better once I knew better. But do you have any thoughts on that? Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah, I think it's a slippery slope that many of us can easily fall into. It's not intentional and it's not something that we're necessarily aware of, but it's that mindset of, I want to be helpful and these are the people that I love. And you mentioned earlier, I want to be a good wife or I want to be a good partner. And I think it starts there. And then there's a lot of positive accolades and rewards, and it makes us feel good to help others feel good too, the people that we love especially. But we don't realize we are mostly saying yes to everybody in our household, to our friends, to our neighbors, to the PTA, to our church. And we don't realize that, oh my gosh, this is coming at an expense where I'm exhausted. But to your point, even if you are exhausted, you feel like, oh, I can't say that I'm exhausted and I can't ask for help. And that triggers sometimes a fear of disappointing others. And you just keep quietly taking on more, even though you're thinking to yourself, why did I say yes to that when I should have said no?
So obviously this podcast is masks off for people pleasers and perfectionists. And so very often the people pleasing and the perfectionism go hand in hand.
Yes.
And I would even like go as far as saying, as you were just describing that, which was so spot on, I could even go back to even when I was a child, right? Just remembering when I felt this strong need to, I guess, protect myself, that I had to please my mom. And so I wanted to be the good girl. And so I didn't say no when my mom would say, you know, Kim, can you go do this? Can you go do that? And it would just be like, yes, 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 all the time, especially, well, actually, it became more difficult as a teenager. And so maybe you can speak to this in terms of developmental type of stuff.
Okay.
So once I started hitting adolescence, right, that's, I think, when we're supposed to start individuating. And so I naturally wanted to go hang out with my friends when I was in high school. And my mom would sometimes just get so upset and say, like, oh, you know, really, can't you just like stay home and watch a movie with me? You know, mostly she was empty emotionally, and she didn't have a very connected, close relationship with my dad. So she was looking for that connection through me or my sister. And if it was like, Mom, well, you know, Anita and Bobby Joe are doing da-da-da and I want to go with them. And then it would be like, oh, you know, like the, and this is what we're going to get into in a minute, the guilt.
Right.
And so I felt awful about saying no. I wasn't being a good girl. I wasn't being a good daughter. And so those patterns started so early on. And then they just carried on into adulthood, just being a good wife, being a good friend, a good sister, a good da-da-da-da-da, you know. So any thoughts on that?
That's a great example of how it can begin and we don't even realize it, right? So it's like little subtle cues. Did your mom say to you, if you go, I'm really going to be hurt and disappointed? No, but you perceived it.
Oh, for sure.
Right? And so we start interpreting that we should stay here. We should say no to our friends. I don't want to hurt mom's feelings. I can tell she's kind of lonely. Therefore, you're putting her needs and wants above your own, because deep down you're probably like, I really just want to go hang out with my friends. But I should do this. And you want to be a good girl and you want to be a good daughter. Add to that, I think another component sometimes is if you grow up in a religious household, it doesn't have to be super religious, but that can add another element of this is the right thing to do. There's nothing wrong with doing the right thing, but we have to create a balance where we're attending to others' needs as well as our own.
It's so funny that you say this. And I know that I think you have a Christian background as well.
Yes.
Because so this is not like an attack on that, because I was raised Catholic as well. But I'm just to your point about when you grow up in a religious home, how that can play out sometimes. And there were times in the way that my mom said it and used it was, this is what Jesus would do, or this is what Jesus would want, because Jesus always put others ahead of himself. Like you said, there is a really good quality to being kind and thoughtful and thinking about people's needs. But I don't believe to the detriment of ourselves.
Correct.
I don't believe pouring out of our proverbial cup all of our energy, which is
Correct.
what she would do. And I watched that in the house where she would go to work. She would take care of us kids, take care of my dad, take care of everyone all day long, pouring out her energy, pouring out, pouring out. And then finally, like at the end of the night, I can see it as if it just happened. She would get a bag of potato chips, like a bag of Lay's potato chips, collapse on the couch, turn on blue bloods, watch TV, and just numb out because she was so depleted.
Of course. Yeah, that's a very common thing that I see. And one of the things that I was thinking about when you were talking about what would Jesus do, and I think I read this in one of the Boundaries book, is they talked about love others as you would love yourself. It doesn't say love them more than you would love yourself. And I thought that was so profound because it's, to your point, making room for others, but not at the deficit of you paying the price all the time. And I think nowadays it's so easy to zone out and escape, like maybe what you saw your mom doing watching TV with social media, right?
Yes.
We're on our phones. We have the audio headphones on. We're kind of plugged out because that's the only way that I think sometimes we feel like it's okay if I do this because everybody else is doing it.
Yes, yes. And can you repeat what you just said about the Jesus piece?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So Jesus asks us that we should do unto others and love others as we love ourselves and as he loved us. It does not say to love them more than we love ourselves. And I think that's an important distinction because I think we start getting the wrong idea when we're little that I need to do this more than for me.
Yes.
So I always have to say yes to mom. And I don't want to disappoint mom, so I never say no.
So two things that come to mind. One is that cliche or what they say on the airplanes all the time is to put your oxygen mask on first before assisting others. Because obviously if you don't have oxygen, how are you going to help the people around you?
Absolutely.
So it's important that we take the time and we fill our cup.
Yes.
But so going back to that saying of love others as we would love ourselves.
Correct.
How many of us do not?
Right. We
Love
don't
ourselves.
know how to love ourselves.
Right.
Or we've never thought about loving ourselves, or no one ever taught us that or role modeled that for us.
Yes.
That's an excellent point that it kind of goes back to we can't pour from an empty cup, right? So
Yes.
if we learn to love ourselves, then we are going to do such a better job at loving the people around us.
Yes.
We will do so much better if we also take care of ourselves. Not that we love others at the expense of ourselves, because then you're depleted and you're not giving what you want to in the first place to begin with.
So and I wholeheartedly agree. And for the longest time, I started my healing journey probably 25, maybe 30 years ago, reading books, listening to all the wisdom teachers, it's so important you love yourself. You have to just love yourself. And I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know what that means, what that feels like, right? So I do now because I've done the work and I have persevered. So I'm on the other side. And I would maybe ask one, do you have any thoughts on that? And then two, just to kind of bridge our way into boundaries, right? Because I think being able to set boundaries is a way that we are showing that we have love for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Because when I set a boundary, I'm claiming that what I need, want, and desire is important and is valuable, which means I'm valuable.
Absolutely.
So any thoughts on that?
So I think when it comes to self-love, when people think, I don't know what that means or what that is, it's the way that I look at it is having grace and compassion with yourself. None of us are perfect, and we can spend a lot of time saying, I'm not good at this, but what about this? But all of us are human beings, and so we're going to have faults, we're going to have strengths, we're going to have weaknesses. It's accepting ourselves, warts and all, and still saying, I'm worthy and I deserve and I am accepting of the things that I want in my life. I deserve them and it's okay for me to ask for them. It doesn't mean that I'm full of myself. It doesn't mean that I think I'm more important than others. But it does mean I value myself and I see my self-worth. Therefore, you want boundaries, as you were saying, to be known to others so that they see that they can see the worth and the respect that you have for yourself and the value that you have of yourself. They're going to see that in your boundaries. They may not like it,
Yes.
which is a different story.
Yes.
And part of the people pleasing. But it's an important thing for us to exercise in our lives and especially in our relationships.
So we'll put a pin in that part, that when you start to set boundaries, the people in your life may not like it, especially when they're used to a different dance.
Yes.
So we can talk about that in a moment. But I want to also kind of come back to what can sometimes keep us so stuck in being unable to set the boundary, right? Because it's not that it's about being weak, or it's not because you're lazy, or again, that there's something wrong with you, that you struggle to set boundaries. There's something that's this sticky, stuck point that keeps us from setting boundaries. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think fear is the number one thing. Fear of disappointing others, fear that we're not going to have the approval that we might long for.
Yeah.
Fear that we're going to lose those things if we set a boundary, and guilt that if we see someone doesn't like what we had to say, if they seem mad, disappointed, angry, it's almost like our brain goes, aha, see, I shouldn't have done that. I should just go back to saying nothing, or saying, yes, I'll take care of it, even though my gut is telling me that's not really what I want to do. But we keep doing it anyway.
So, and I mentioned the guilt, right, early on. It's for me, it was like the guilt because my mom did that so often when I was younger. But I, for the longest time, and sometimes it can still show up for me if I'm being 100% honest and I'm taking my mask off, because it's such a deeply, deeply ingrained pattern in us to people please and not set boundaries due to fear of disappointing and so on and so forth, that I can just remember being so paralyzed with the fear. And sometimes the fear might have been true, but most of the time the fear was something I was perceiving in my mind, that if I spoke up and I set this boundary, that something awful was going to happen. But I had it in the first place because there were times that I spoke up. I mean, I can even remember when talk about teenage years, when my daughter was a teenager, we would go to the mall and go shopping. And it was like the awful, awful experience every single time. If I haven't already said it, I had very wishy-washy boundaries. I could just, back in those days, I was like a doormat, like my mom. Anyone could get anything pretty much that they wanted from me. It was yes, 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 right? 2 weeks ago, I had an episode on micro yeses, on the ways that we keep abandoning ourselves. So here we are, we're in the mall, and we're having a mother-daughter event, bonding, and we're having fun, and I'm wanting to get her some clothes. We're going for something specific, but my daughter loves to shop and she loves stuff. And so, it's after 5 or so, I don't know, bras or tops or whatever, she would just keep on asking. And then I would start to notice inside of myself that this is starting to feel like it's uncomfortable. She's crossing the line a little bit. She's wanting to take too much. And it's not her fault. I'm not blaming her. Number one, she's a teenager. And number two, she was used to the dance with me. If I just keep asking, my mom, I'll get what I want. So this is our dance. After I'm at my limit. So Mom, can I just get blah, blah, blah? Can I get this extra thing? No, Ange, we're good. Mom, second time. Mom, can I just get it? No. And a little more would go on between us. But the second time, the third time, the fourth time, finally the fifth time, okay, fine. Okay, fine. So I could not, because the guilt, that's what was getting to me, right? She knew how to push my buttons. She knew how to say certain things, and the guilt would kill me. And so I would eventually say yes. So I really want to speak to that for the person that's listening, that's identifying with all that we're saying, and they're thinking to themselves, God, I wish I could set boundaries with my partner. I wish I could speak up to my mom or my dad. You know, I'm 40 years old and I haven't been able to say no to my dad my whole entire life, or I can't say no to my kids, or I can't say no to my boss because it's so overwhelming. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that is such a normal thing that happens. I want everybody to hear that it's not just you. It's such a normal, inner dialogue to say all those things to yourself. And I think the one word that keeps coming up to me as you were saying all that is permission. To give ourselves permission to say, I already gave you my answer. It's no. I'm not available right now. That's too much for me. I don't think I want to do that anymore. So sometimes just the idea of even saying anything along those lines makes us feel, like you said, so fearful, so paralyzed that it's just easier and safer to keep doing the same thing. So the idea of taking a leap of faith in yourself and being willing to say, I'm just going to try this out and see what happens is huge. Oftentimes we imagine the worst case scenario. Sometimes that does happen.
Yes.
I'm not going to deny that. But oftentimes the things that we envision may happen, the worst case scenario, oftentimes do not come to be the case. They don't come into reality. However, we have to learn how to manage the discomfort that we feel in being willing to trying something new. We're so used to the discomfort of I'm never first. I'm always last. This is what I do. This is my role. This is etc. But we're not used to the discomfort of, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe that I actually voiced how I truly feel. It's very, very frightening to the point where it's just oftentimes easier to keep doing the same old thing.
So what I like to call it is the guilt hangover. It's like a hangover, right? Because you might put it out there and say, and oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? But I also like what you're saying too is, yeah, you know what? We can stay stuck in the same old pattern, right? We can stay stuck there. But at the end of the day, and this is what I found for myself, maybe you see it in your clients, is that if we choose to stay in that stuck place and we keep repeating the pattern over and over again, telling ourselves the story over and over and over again, at least in my case, and I think others as well, start to feel resentful toward the people.
Yes.
Start pointing the finger. Oh my God, he's why does, or me getting mad at my daughter. I got so mad at her every time we went to the mall. It's like, hello, right? Like I co-created. So you mentioned that some clients will say, I created the monster.
Yes.
Right? So let's talk about that, because this can be a very sensitive point.
Yes.
And I want the listener to know that this isn't about you now blaming yourself. This is not about self-blame.
Right.
This is about ownership. This is about taking responsibility. So any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. That's an excellent point. I think sometimes what happens is people finally reach their breaking point and they finally decide they're going to speak up and voice how they really think and feel, but then it comes out in a way they're not very happy with, right? So maybe it's too aggressive, or maybe it's shocking to other people, because if you've said yes multiple times before, they're going to get used to you saying yes again. So when you say, no, I don't want to do it, people are like, oh my God, what's
wrong
gotten
with
into
you?
her? Yeah. And then you become, the witch in the story, right? And people are genuinely shocked because they haven't known that you have felt differently because you haven't spoken up about it, right? Hence that term of like, I've created a monster, right? Like you kind of, there's a saying that says we teach people how we want to be treated.
Yes.
Right. And so if we keep saying yes, someone's going to get used to us saying yes.
Yes.
And if it's not their fault that they're expecting us to say yes, because we haven't ever said no. However, it's important that we recognize, oh yeah, this is how I've contributed to that. Unwittingly, right? We're not conscious of it necessarily. And now we have an opportunity to say, now that I'm aware of this, how do I want to do this differently, right? So we have a choice point. I keep doing the same thing over and over again, or I'm going to choose to do something differently.
Yeah, I love that. And so again, just to kind of reiterate that the point that we're making is not to blame the person that is listening, because again, you have been conditioned to repeat this pattern because, as we already have described and laid out, fear of disappointing others, the fear of disapproval, and most likely if it happened in your childhood and you were afraid that if you said no or you asserted yourself, and a lot of times, even as little 2 and 3 year olds, what do we do when they try to assert themselves? When they say, no. I mean, I did it as a parent.
Sure.
What do you mean no? If you say no to me again, I'm putting you in timeout.
Yes.
Right? You're going in timeout. We reprimand them for saying no and asserting their needs. So they're starting to get trained and conditioned already at an early age that they can't speak up.
Absolutely.
Right? So now as adults, we don't want to continue that pattern because now we're adults, right? So it is okay for us to assert ourselves. It is okay to speak up and say what we want and what we need. But it's, again, we said it's very, very hard. So we don't do it for the longest time.
Right.
And then all of a sudden we hit the breaking point, like you said, and now all this resentment is built up inside of us. So it comes out sideways.
Yes.
And then our loved ones are like, oh my God, what is, as you said, what is wrong with you?
Right.
You're off your rocker. Or like now you're wanting to do a new dance. So let's touch on this. You're now taking steps and you're setting boundaries. You're doing a new dance. But the people in your life, your partner, your children, your coworkers, whoever, your sister, they don't like the new dance.
Yes.
Because, oh my God, they're so used to Kim saying yes, 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 yes. Right? I even shared with you about a friend who just always wants to get together for lunch, but always wants me to come to where she is all the time. And what have I done for all these years? Sure, I'll drive 40 minutes to come have lunch. But now it's like, okay, well, why don't you drive 45 minutes toward me now?
Exactly.
And have lunch. So we do this new dance. People may not like it. What do we do?
Yeah, I think it depends on their reaction, right? So some people are going to be generally surprised and shocked, which is okay, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a new way we're showing up for ourselves, and it's a new way we're showing up for them. And they might ask us what's going on. And depending on who that person is and how they are, we can have an honest conversation that this is something we're aware of and we're working on changing. Maybe someone gets very angry with us or we get scolded and we may have to say, I know you don't like this, right? And I know that I'm usually the one to say yes, but I'm no longer willing to do that. Every time I've said yes, this is how I have felt. I don't want to feel that way anymore. Can we talk about this? Sometimes people will surprise us and say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you told me that. I never knew that you felt that way before. So there is a possibility that some people will actually be very open and receptive to this new change. That isn't often the case.
Yeah.
We anticipate a lot of pushback, and then we have to figure out how we're going to manage that pushback and how we're going to manage that discomfort. So
Yes.
I think we talked about managing guilt is like going to the gym and building a muscle, right?
Yes.
You're not going to come out of the gym after a week and have a new bicep. But if you go and you do this consistently several times a week, over time, you're going to start to see muscle development, right? So we have to remember we are going to feel uncomfortable. We are going to feel anxious, stressed, guilty for sure. Yep. We are going to, as you said earlier, later on, repeat the conversation 10 million times. It's all totally natural in the beginning until we get more comfortable doing something new that we've been conditioned to do very differently.
I agree. So maybe we can talk about like one point to that and one caveat. You and I talked about this beforehand a lot of times, and this isn't like an overall rule, but most of the time, a person with people-pleasing tendencies will tend to attract in a partner that maybe we can say the partner's narcissistic, but at the very least, controlling, domineering, strong-willed, might even feel a bit scary, right, for the people pleasers. So you were just saying that, sometimes when we do the new dance and we start to set the boundaries, some people may surprise us and respond really well. Like, oh, okay, Kim, I hear that. I see that you have wants, needs too. Sure, let's talk about that. But and I can think of so many women that are genuinely and truly maybe listening and afraid to speak up to their partner because they are attracting in this strong, domineering person that may come back with some demeaning, loud tone. Like, what do you mean? I said we were going, for fish tonight. We're not going for Italian. Like, didn't you hear me say that? And, and it just like puts that person right back in her tracks, shrinking really small. Is there something that you can maybe, besides come see you as a client, right? Or work with you, because I know that can take a lot of work, but like, what can you maybe say to give some hope or some kind of encouragement?
So I think you have to assess how risky you standing up for yourself is going to be. If you know someone's going to be upset, they're going to give you pushback, they might get angry, that's one thing. And in your example, you might say, yeah, I know that we usually go to fish, on Friday nights, but I've been thinking I really prefer Italian. And I know you don't like it, but I really want to try it tonight. And if the person insists, you might say, well, can we just try it and see how you feel? Or how about then we do it tomorrow night? We can do fish today and something else tomorrow. But if the person is going to get intimidating, if the person is going to, as you said, demean us, if the person might do something aggressive, then we either, if we can, try to say, I don't want to continue having this conversation until you calm down. We need to take a break and come back to this later if you're able to get up and leave. If you don't think that you can, then that's something that you have to talk about with a trained professional, because we don't want to have you put in a situation where you're in danger of being hurt.
Yeah, I love that. I will say for myself, and I was telling you earlier about my 5-step power pathway. And so we've already named the first 2 steps already in this conversation. The first one is being aware of your patterns, right? P for patterns. The second one is ownership. O, right? Taking ownership, not for the other person's behavior and actions, but for the part that you played.
Yes.
Right? So we talked about that earlier. I created the monster because of my co-creation. And then for me to be able to set boundaries, it really became available to me because of W and E of power. W is the willingness to heal or feel in order to heal, like a feeling, the pain, right, that has been stored in me for years and years. And then E is about embracing my inner child, right? So in order for me to develop the muscle
Yes.
to say no and withstand the kickback, I had to do a certain amount of inner work. I want to pause for a moment and share a resource I created for those of you who are ready to go deeper than a podcast episode. If you're noticing your patterns, the overthinking, the self-abandonment, the inner critic, but you're not sure how to actually shift them, I've created a digital course that walks you through that process step by step. This course is designed to help you understand why you are the way you are from a nervous system and conditioning perspective. And more importantly, how to start responding differently with awareness instead of self-judgment. You can move through it at your own pace, in your own time, and come back to it whenever you need grounding or clarity. If that sounds supportive, you can learn more by visiting my website, www.kimgrosscoaching.com. All the details are there.
Yes.
The healing work before I could, because like that example to this day comes up with my husband all the time, right? I will say, I've been trying new restaurants with girlfriends. And where did I go? I think I went to Haru and a couple, and that's like sushi and other, which he loves. It's a type of food he loves. So I said, after I went, oh my God, I went to this great place. We should try it. Or we even went to Baca Wine, I think it was, the Italian place. Great place. We got to go there and try. Like, I'm all excited, like new restaurants. No, I'm not going there. Like no reason to not go other than to just say no, right? So in the past, that would have been like, oh my God, like I'm trying to speak up, like let's do something new. And he's saying no. So now I can kind of jokingly, I couldn't have done it before, but I'm in a place now like, okay, if you don't want to try new places, that's fine. That's on you that you don't want to broaden your horizon, but I'm going to go to all new restaurants with my friends, and I verbalize that, right? So that's a boundary. That's saying like, look, if you don't want to try new things together, like as a couple, that's fine. I can't control you. I can't change you. That's you. But just know that I'm going to still do some things on my own because I do have a desire to try new places and new things.
Yes.
But I could not have done that even 5 years ago.
Yes.
10 years ago, 15 years ago.
And how did that feel?
Good. It felt good. It felt really good. So I think it's important to kind of like highlight and underline for the listener that what we're offering is a great starting point and a great framework. But if you are, again, in a relationship where you just have lost yourself so much that you just feel invisible and so small, and you're with someone who is demeaning, puts you down, maybe abusive, verbally or emotionally, again, getting help, is a really important thing, and or doing the inner work.
Yes,
it will become more accessible. So as we round out the conversation, is there anything else that you want to share to the listener in terms of boundary setting or even the neurodiverse relationships, the mental load that we talked about, anything that you feel like we didn't touch upon that would be really helpful for the listener?
What comes to mind are the words, you matter. You matter just as much as your spouse, your children, your siblings, your parents. You matter just as much as anybody else. And I think we forget that. That's part of how we get lost. Once you realize that I matter and it's important for me to let other people know that, and you give yourself that permission, things can begin to shift. And just because you feel scared of doing something new, just because you feel guilt, doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It's not, there isn't an expectation that you're going to learn an instrument and get it right the first time. You're going to have some fear, some nervousness, some anxiety about how it's going to be, but you won't know until you try it. So give yourself permission and remind yourself that you matter, and it's okay for us to ask for what we want and what we need. It doesn't make us selfish. It doesn't make us full of ourselves. It doesn't make us unreasonable. It makes it okay for ourselves to say, I matter, and I'm going to let you know that I do matter. And therefore, I'm going to expect maybe something differently from you. Maybe it's not good enough for me anymore that we only ever go get fish on Friday nights. Maybe I want to try Greek. It's okay.
It's okay to try.
And it's even okay if they don't like it.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, something I learned a long time ago is that we're not for everybody, right? Like, I like to be liked, but I know that not everyone's going to like me. And I think that's a hard thing for us to know. But I think I have to remember, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. I may not like it. It doesn't mean something's wrong with me.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you just named. Another trait for the people pleaser is we desperately want to be liked by others. So that plays into us saying yes, 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 because we think that if we are super agreeable and we're quote unquote team player, then we're going to be liked more.
Right. And that can happen. We can be liked more, but we can also be taken advantage of.
Yes.
And again, it's about that balance, right? It's like the example you gave earlier about your friend. She can come to you one time, you can go to her one time. It doesn't all have to be one way, all or nothing. The idea is to find that middle ground where therefore other people know what our thoughts and feelings are.
I agree. And again, like that one also, so much shit happens in our childhoods, in our formative years, because like I do remember being in middle school, maybe 7th grade, 8th grade on up, is that I so wanted to be liked by others, right? That I would do what I needed to do to quote fit in.
Right.
And as Brene Brown always says, there is a difference between fitting in and belonging.
Yes.
What I desired was belonging, but what I did was try to fit in.
Yes.
And the way that I fit in was that I had the parties all the time. Again, my mom had the wishy-washy boundaries. She never said no. So I was like, Mom, can I have a party? Can I have everybody over? Sure. And my mother she's Italian, so she would always have food out for my friends. Everybody loved coming to my house, but mostly because we didn't get caught. Well, I don't know if she knew or not knew. She probably knew, but never said anything about drinking in the house. So everybody was like, great, let's go to Kim's. But I didn't want to do that. I didn't really want to be drinking and having those parties. And I didn't want to do that to my parents. I had good parents. But my need for being liked trumped all of that, everything else. Again, abandoning myself.
Yes.
So it's another thing we do as people pleasers.
Completely. Yeah. Every time we say yes to someone or someone else, if deep down that's not really what we want to do, we're saying no to ourselves.
Absolutely.
So you just want to be mindful of that little inner voice. I always tell my clients, listen to that little voice inside yourself. Your gut instinct will always lead you in the right direction.
Absolutely. I love that. That's a great ending or closing line for sure. So before we end this conversation, if there's someone who's listening and they're like, oh my gosh, like, I so want to connect with Dr. King. I loved everything she had to say. Where can they find you?
So you can find me on social media. I have a professional Facebook page. It's my name, Dr. Gloria Rivera King. The Instagram handle is Dr. Gloria. You can Google my name. I'm in Melbourne, Florida, and I'd love to have you reach out and see who I'm able to help.
Absolutely. And can you just repeat for the listeners? I know we said it in the beginning. You said it in the beginning. I'll have everything in the show notes.
Sure.
But just to kind of emphasize for the listener, what type of therapy that you do? What do you offer?
Yeah. So I do therapy for individuals and couples, adults 21 years of age and older. I do a lot of work with people pleasing, women's issues. I'm seeing a lot of women lately are going through menopausal changes, and now that's affecting a lot of their personal lives. And couples therapy, primarily infidelity, and then the neurodiversity couples coaching as well.
Love it. This was so much fun.
Thank you,
I loved
Kim.
having you as a guest.
I'm so excited
Our
to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Person. You're welcome. So exciting. As we wrap up today's episode, I just want to say thank you for being here and for taking this time for yourself. If this episode resonated with you, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the podcast or leave a review. Even a quick star rating helps more people find this space and reminds the algorithms that these conversations matter. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have a question, a takeaway, or something that came up while you were listening, leave a comment or send it in. Let's keep the conversation going. This podcast isn't meant to be a one-way street. It's meant to feel like a community. If you want to learn more about me, my work, or the ways we can go deeper together, you can visit my website. All the details are there. Until next time, take a breath, take the mask off, and be gentle with yourself. I'll see you soon.